Hello everybody, you're back with your hosts Haley and Bailey, and today we're going to be talking about the John F. Kennedy assassination. Now, I'm not going to say that it's a nice topic, but I am going to say that it's very interesting, so buckle up your seatbelts because we're going to have a fun ride. On November 22nd, 1963, John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. This was an event that shocked the entire world, not just our nation. It was a time period during the Cold War, and tensions were high in between multiple different countries, especially the Soviet Union, because they were suspected spies. Of course, this was during the Second Red Scare. But more than 60 years later, people are still asking questions about it. Like, what really happened that day? Next, I will be showing you the map of Dealey Plaza and the route that his motorcade took that day. As you look at this, you can see that there were 3 shots that rang out, the third being the one that fatally wounded President Kennedy. Many people still wonder if it was the act of one man or something more complicated. Here's a little background to let me catch you up. In the early 1960s, the United States was in the middle of the Cold War. This was a period of intense tension with the Soviet Union. At the time, President Kennedy had already been faced with major challenges, including the Cuban Missile Crisis. Nonetheless, he was preparing for re-election in 1964. In November 1963, President John F. Kennedy traveled to Texas to strengthen political support for him. However, Dallas had a mean reputation for political hostility. Just weeks earlier, United Nations Ambassador Adlai Stevenson had even been confronted by angry protesters within the city. Despite this, Kennedy wanted the visit to continue as planned, so it did. And that is what led to the day of the assassination. On the morning of November 22nd, President Kennedy arrived in Dallas, Texas, and that's when he began a motorcade throughout the entire city. Thousands of people lined the streets in hopes of getting a glimpse of President John F. Kennedy and the First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. The motorcade entered Dealey Plaza, a large open area surrounded by many buildings. At approximately 12:30 p.m., gunshots rang out like crazy. Many witnesses described confusion, chaos, and discomfort, but some of them thought that the sound came from fireworks at first to celebrate the president's arrival in Dallas, Texas, but they later found out that that was not the case. President Kennedy was struck, just as Texas Governor John Connally was, because they were riding in the same car during the motorcade. The driver immediately sped towards Parkland Hospital upon hearing the gunshots ring. Doctors at the hospital tried desperately to revive John F. Kennedy, but a little bit after the arrival, he was pronounced dead. But looking back at this, who would do such a thing? I know. Okay, who was it? Wasn't it Lee Harvey Oswald? Oh, you're right, I remember now. Attention quickly turned to a suspect, Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald was a former U.S. Marine who had previously lived in the Soviet Union, but that was before returning to the United States. He, ironically, worked at the Texas School Depository, which was overlooking Dealey Plaza, directly. Of course, the police arrested him less than 2 hours after the assassination. However, he denied all the charges. All of them. I'm just a patsy. What does that even mean? This totally isn't Kennedy's mail. This statement, that one individual statement, would fuel decades of questions about his role in all of this. Not the mail statement, but you get the point. Then the case takes an unexpected turn. While being transferred in police custody, Oswald was shot and killed by Jack Ruby, a nightclub owner. Not to mention, the shooting happened on live stream television. This was the first ever in history. And that's because television had just, had its big boom, the big break. Bye-bye radios. Hello. Death of Oswald, I guess. With Oswald now deceased, the possibility of a trial and clear answers was completely gone. So, in comes, you guessed it, the Warren Commission. Led by Chief Justice Earl Warren, this commission was created by the government to determine exactly what happened in the Kennedy assassination. However, after months of investigation, they decided that the suspect, Lee Harvey Oswald, has acted alone. A key part of their findings was the single bullet theory. This stated that one bullet caused multiple wounds to President Kennedy and Governor Connally. This theory has been widely debated, but later forensic reconstructions and trajectory analyses have proven that it is physically possible for this to happen based on the positions that the passengers were in. That's what happened, guys. The commission also said that we also find Oswald to have no clear connection to a larger conspiracy. Get off our backs. However, critics argued that some of the evidence was incomplete, or maybe just not fully explored. But of course, this led to continued skepticism throughout the nation. Now, we're gonna let this wannabe talk about some of the lesser known facts that you might want to know later. What's up, guys? So basically, I'm here to tell you stuff that you didn't already know. So let's go. Did you know that Secret Service agents were not standing on the back of the limousine as the motorcade traveled through Dealey Plaza? And that wasn't normal for high-risk situations. Like, did they not think this was high risk? Because, like, come on, I could have known that. Then we have the fact that the car slowed significantly on the turn from Houston Street to Elm Street. Like, dude, you're just giving him an easier target. Why are you slowing down? Pedal to the metal on the floor. Let's go. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have been there in the first place. Then we've got this Oswald dude, okay? Like, if he wasn't dead, he should be in jail. But basically, what I'm about to tell you is crazy because he bought his rifle through the mail under, like, an alias. And, like, why was that legal at the time? Like, they were just making it so easy for this dude to get shot. Like, was this staged? Then we have the Zapruder film. I know a bunch of you have heard of this. If you haven't, why are you even in this class, bro? Like, maybe go down the standard. But anyways, so, like, this was the most viable piece of evidence of Kennedy's assassination, but it wasn't shown to the public for years. Now, I mean, if I was that guy, I think I would have showed it sooner so I could get the money faster. But, like, at the same time, I don't think I would have shown it sooner because that's a pretty deep video. But, you know, it is what it is now. But now, after he took that video, did you know that he never touched a video camera again? Whenever everybody says, oh, I got PTSD from my concussion. Bro, you ain't never seen PTSD after what this guy's been through. Okay, Shaggy, that's enough. Oh, wait, that's her name. Hey, it wasn't done! In the 1970s, the House Select Committee on Assassinations reopened the Kennedy investigation. Their conclusion differed slightly. They said that Kennedy was probably assassinated as a part of a conspiracy. Oh, really? However, this conclusion was based on acoustic evidence, and it was later questioned, saying you have to have concrete evidence to accuse something like that. Because there was no clear group or plan identified, the case remains unresolved in some aspects. However, thousands of documents have been released over time, so of course some details are still being debated today. Oh, do you have something to say? Please make sure you stay on topic this time. Yes I do. Bro, she's really got a problem. Anyways, we're going to talk about the impact of the eyewitnesses' perspectives. So, like, for those who witnessed the event, they like to say that the memory was vivid and it lasted for the rest of their lives, which, of course, that makes sense, right? PTSD and everything. But, you know, across the country, Americans watch the news unfold on television. Like, everybody saw it. Isn't that crazy? But anyways, for many, it was the first time they experienced a national tragedy in, like, real time. Because, you know, TV and stuff. But, yeah, anyways, the assassination deeply affected public trust in government, and it changed how future presidents were protected. Like, you know, how you see the Secret Service now? Guess Kennedy didn't have it back then. Hey, yo, what are we talking about? Oh, nice chair. Bruh, you just took my seat. Well, looks like I'm the new narrator. Let's go, guys. We repping this Bartlett bling. Anyways, guys, y'all might think so, but the impact of President Kennedy's assassination totally didn't end in 1963, like, by any means. 5 years later, in 1968, tragedy struck the nation once again with the assassination of civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, guys, remember, that's why we get out of school. But that same night, President Kennedy's brother, Robert F. Kennedy, gave an impromptu speech on the event in Indianapolis. That's where it was, right? Indianapolis? Yes, that's where it was. Great, so I did pay attention in history. Instead of anger, Robert F. Kennedy decided to speak with compassion, care, and just overall freedom. This speech really spoke to me because at the time, nobody had actually cared about Robert F. Kennedy's feelings towards the assassination of his brother, his own blood. They were all worried about, oh, what's going to happen with the nation? Oh, what about the civil rights movement? Never, oh, what about his brother? So, that's important. But instead of being angry, he decided to pull everybody back together. One unity under the United States of America. Thank you, Robert. In his speech, Robert F. Kennedy greatly reflected on the life of his brother and the correspondence he had with Martin Luther King Jr. And in this, he wanted to tell the nation to act with kindness instead of, you know, hatred. He wanted people to know that what they needed was not division, but love and empathy and wisdom, just like today. His message helped calm the minds of Americans in a time of widespread violence and fear. So, like, can I have the last word? I mean, I guess. It remains one of the most famous speeches in American history. The assassinations of John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. marked an increasingly difficult era in American history. But voices like Robert Kennedy's reminded the nation of the importance of unity in times of tragedy. Over 60 years later, the assassination of John F. Kennedy still raises eyebrows and indicts questions about what really happened and what we know today. What do you think? Do we know the full story? Do you think you're being lied to? Oh, do you think it's worth unpacking again? Was that right? Thank you for watching!